Hey guys, Dr. Greg here, and on today's episode of the Daily Dose with Dr. Greg, I have one of our esteemed health coaches with me, Loredana Morett, and we're going to talk about her professional journey, which is quite interesting, and then we're going to jump into some research that is going to really spark your brain around how little tools that the research shows can benefit you on your health journey. Stay tuned. All right, Loredana, here we are.
Yes, we are here.
Your first time on the video.
My first time.
I love it. I love it. So where I want to start is you have a very interesting journey to get to Minnesota.
Exactly.
And it's quite, it's impressive. So share with our listeners kind of your professional journey, if you would.
Yeah, it's quite a journey.
Mm-hmm.
So my background, I've always loved helping people.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to study medicine. And I finished my career as a medical doctor in Mexico City, in a super amazing university over there. And in that college, they sent us to Houston 2 times to kind of see how medicine worked in different places, right? So I had the fortune to working with a cardiac surgeon, and he really was happy with my work. And then we connected, and he wanted me to go back after I finished my career. So I went back and worked a little bit with him. But then in the process, I met a really nice Canadian man.
Some of those stories always shift and then you met somebody, right?
Yes.
So you went to medical school in Mexico City.
Yes, I finished my career.
But this was also at the time where you spent that year in that village, right? Where you essentially did everything.
Yeah, so in Mexico, to be able to graduate from medical school, you have to work as a medical doctor in one of these little towns where there's nothing.
Underserved.
Yeah. There's you gotta figure out a way to really help people and get
And you did everything.
Everything. I delivered babies, everything. Everything.
Minor surgery-ish, or?
Yeah, and I wish I would have written
a memoir, right?
A memoir,
yes. Yeah.
It's amazing. You learn so much. You learn to really think of many possibilities of how to help people.
You have to get good. You have to be handy, resourceful, right?
You gotta be resourceful. So
you land in Houston, you meet a guy.
Yeah.
This guy, there's a whole story about her meeting the guy, by the way, and how phone numbers and all this stuff. But we're not going to go into that in this conversation.
Maybe a different time.
Yeah, that could be. Maybe we'll bring Eric in on one of those conversations. So you guys decide that you're a couple, and we're going to land in the States. And it's actually not a very difficult process. Due to the background of your medical training in Mexico City, you needed to take 3 tests, right?
I took 2, and then my maternal instinct kicked in, and I said, I really want to be with my kids as they grow up, because you realize how fast they grow.
Right.
So I was blessed enough to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And I put my career on pause.
Yeah.
Raising my kids full time. So I always missed medicine, and that serving others is literally my passion. So
that's so good.
I was researching what can I do, and I went into alternative medicine a little bit to see how the world looked like, and I was like, whoa, this is amazing. And then I found the Mayo Clinic, and they have this health coaching program. So I'm like, this is where I want to be, because this is where I can serve people. And
give me an idea. So from the time that you decided not to take your 3rd test until the time that you entered the Mayo Clinic program, how many years was that?
like 12 years. It was a lot.
So you had your 3rd baby, right? And
so she's right now 10 years old.
Okay.
So going to be 11 soon.
They grew up quick.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And so I decided to, until they were out of kindergarten and elementary school a little bit. So then once those crucial years went by,
and
I'm like, okay,
still inside of you to help.
It's time for me getting back to my calling.
Yep.
Also calling, because motherhood is a calling as well.
100%. So you went through the program at the Mayo Clinic. Very illustrious program,
amazing.
Very intense. So you got to marry your traditional medical training with this, how do I walk with somebody through this? And isn't it interesting that they use the word alternative with what we do, right? We teach people to eat, move, and think.
Yes.
And that's called alternative, where drugs and surgery are called traditional or whatever, right? So,
Yep. Yeah, it's amazing because it should be all the way around.
Yeah, I agree. So you went through that.
Yeah.
And then we found you, and
Yes.
you've been a part of this clinic for how long now?
It's my third year, I think.
So.
Yeah.
My gosh, it goes fast.
It goes by so fast.
That's
Time
wild.
flies.
Well, one of the cool things that I've gotten to know about you, Loredana, is that you love the research. You love digging. You love going on proverbial bunny rabbit trails to dig in, because there is good research out there, and there's some research that maybe isn't great. But today in our episode, we're going to talk about some of the pieces of research that you've ran into that we can't ignore.
Yeah.
These are things that can really move the needle for our patients and our clients, and it's something that the world should be talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So by the way, when we talk about research in the episode today, we'll have the research links in the notes. So if you're the person that, like Loredana, wants to actually read the research and see that it's real,
It's gonna be there.
It's going to be there.
Yes.
So let's jump in.
Yeah, let's do it.
What do you got?
So yesterday I had a session with one of our beautiful clients. She's incredible and super committed. And there was a shift in her healing.
Okay.
And I'm a curious person, and I started asking questions. And we see this a lot in our practice. When there's a jump in healing, sometimes emotional and mental things start happening too, because we're not just physical bodies, we're complex beings that
Very much so.
have so much more than a physical component. So sometimes when we're healing the body, the emotions, the mental, and all the other parts of
Spiritual,
us
right.
start poking their heads out like, hey, here we are.
Yeah.
And once that holistic healing starts happening,
Yep.
healing in the physical body, it's like it gets a boost.
Okay.
So that's what happened yesterday. And I remember reading a long time ago something about that coherence between the brain and the heart and how that improves healing in many cases. So I'm like, okay, let's go back to this.
Let's see what that is.
Yes, and then
Coherence,
Coherence.
like how would you define coherence?
So coherence is like matching what, like the brain, the
Like they're
heart,
connected,
and
like there's a communication.
There's a
Okay.
communication, and that when that's like flowing,
Right.
because there's how the mind, the heart, and the gut are connected
100%.
by the longest nerve in the body.
Right. The vagus nerve, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's a coherence there. When there's incoherence, there can be like a kind of nuts that cannot, like communication cannot flow properly.
Makes sense.
So it's really cool because I have these in my notes, like I research a little bit, and then coherence is thought to support the body's natural healing processes by reducing stress,
Yeah.
improving emotional regulation, lowering blood pressure, reducing inflammation, and enhancing immune function and optimizing the nervous system function.
Right.
So it's pretty interesting that this was happening.
So what you're saying is optimal coherence is
Yes.
necessary. Those knots that you talked about will disconnect the brain from the
brain
heart.
from the heart.
How would someone, in your opinion, listening to this say, I don't know that I have good coherence? What would be a manifestation, a symptom? Like how would someone know that there's maybe not good gut or brain heart coherence?
So actually, HRV, which is heart rate variability, it's a measurement that we can have. That's actually the primary measure used in coherence studies.
Interesting.
So what heart rate variability reflects is the variation in time between the heartbeats. And the higher your HRV is, the better your emotional regulation and the physiological resilience. So that means like you get like that bandwidth that
100%.
you sometimes talked about.
So for the listeners really quick, so heart rate variability. So if let's say that your Oura Ring or your Apple Watch or your what band, let's say your heart rate is 60. Now that's not heart rate variability, that's a heart rate. So if it's 60, that's an average of 1 beat every second. Heart rate variability is the variance of time in between those beats.
between,
So
exactly.
a high heart rate variability would mean, like, hypothetically, like if it's 60 beats a minute, it might be like 0.75, 1.2, 0.86. So it's all over the place. And the way I explain it to my patients is, think of someone being like a free spirit.
Yeah.
Like, life is good, I can do whatever I want. And then if the body gets stressed, it's like, bring it in here. Like it almost becomes militant, right? Like, so a low heart rate variability is a very small difference in those aspects. And I actually started using heart rate variability years ago training professional athletes, because what happened is these athletes would be overtrained.
Yes.
And because they had such a low heart rate variability, their body's like, not today.
Yeah.
Like, this is not a blessing for my body. I don't have the bandwidth to do this, right? So, and it used to be like a $20,000 tool that you'd have to come in and do this measurement on. And now it's like, the majority of our listeners have access to heart rate variability. They just may not know how to read it,
Yes.
or how to look at it. The other thing I want to add about HRV is, the numbers are your numbers, not like, we don't say like the goal is 100. Like, you may never get to 100, but you are curious with your values, and you look at the difference or the delta in them. And then, so it's really the number one way to know how recovered a nervous system is.
Yes.
And if your nervous system is recovered, so think about this, if your nervous system is stressed and you start a new diet or you take some vitamins, your body's like, not interested.
Nope. Not today.
Like, nope.
Yep.
Like, but if your nervous system is in a place where it can have its arms open, then it's like, what do you got for me?
Yeah.
This works.
Yeah.
So a person that, so signs might be, I'm anxious. My digestion is off.
Yes.
All vagus nerve stuff, right?
All vagus nerve.
Right? Like, I get heart palpitations.
Yes.
But you talked about a shift with this client of yours.
Yes.
How did they did you walk them through that? Did they have a spiritual experience? Like, how did that flip for them?
Yeah, no, there was like a little bit of stagnation in her progress. So there's like, things were not going like in a stable flow. It was like, what happened? And then she's going to therapy, and she had a super amazing session with her therapist where a lot of emotions were released, a lot of things from her past.
Knots in the coherence, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Those knots in the coherence. So then when the mind and the heart got that coherence of, okay, now I get it. Now I can release these, the knots.
Yeah.
Then the body's like, we got this, and she started having more energy and going to the bathroom regularly, and it's just crazy. It was like some things that were like stopped, then all of a sudden things were getting better.
So in that case, she saw a mental health therapist. By the way, we're huge fans of mental health therapists.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're not mental health therapists.
We're not.
We allow a safe place for people to have some of these experiences. What are other ways that you have found that people can identify and unravel a knot, for lack of better terms?
We here, in our sessions, we try to teach people how to manage stress. So then we suggest breathing exercises, different breathing techniques.
What's your favorite breathwork technique with your clients?
Okay, so I have two. It's hard too. But box breathing is amazing because it activates the parasympathetic nervous system so fast. Like, you can actually feel it like right away.
100%.
And then the 4-7-8 breathing technique, which
explain
also so you inhale for 4 seconds. You hold it for 7, and then you exhale for 8. It really activates that relaxation response right away.
That's so good.
So I love
And
those.
that costs absolutely nothing.
Nothing. It's free.
Right.
So that's the best.
And two, when we talk about the diaphragm. And the diaphragm is a part of the thoracic cavity, like the heart cavity, but also a part of the pelvic cavity.
Yes.
Right? It's like this amazing intermediate that sets the tone, for lack of better terms, no pun intended, for that area. So breath work, what we have found through research also, is the number one way for the nervous system to say, I'm okay.
I'm okay. Exactly.
I'm okay. We're good.
Yes.
Right? So if you're listening to this and you're like, and you got a health challenge, whether it's autoimmune disease or fertility issues or hormone imbalance, and you're looking, I'll be as nice as I can say this, but if you're looking for a magic diet or a magic pill, there's no such thing.
No.
It takes hard work.
It does.
It takes the ability to have a head on a swivel enough.
Yeah.
And then you also, before we recorded today, you talked about there's actually like a God spirit, brain, heart.
Yeah. And,
So-
and everything's connected. Everything is intricately connected. There's there's some research, my way of researching is I go from one thing to another. So while I was doing this, there's this gut brain immune axis. So and then I found a study which I have like right here in the Journal of Experimental Medicine in 2019. They found that the gut microbiome, which is those trillions of bacteria
Right.
that we have in
Trillions,
our digestive
yeah.
system, directly influences how our immune system functions. So
Okay.
everything is connected, which is fascinating. An imbalance of gut bacteria can give people inflammatory diseases like anxiety, depression, autoimmune
Right.
diseases.
Right.
So we hear what this means for our listeners,
Yeah.
like clinically, is that when you're experiencing digestive issues or chronic inflammation
Okay.
or things like anxiety or mood
Okay.
swings,
Okay.
you can have a sign of a gut-brain immune imbalance. So we here come in handy because we don't treat your symptoms. We look at the root cause of those
Right.
things.
100%.
And we need to address many things because it's not just one thing, right? It's like movement and diet and sleep
that.
and
All
stress
of that.
and everything is connected. So we go really deep into somebody's
know.
history and because everybody's unique too.
They are. And I want to talk about that because I am grateful for Western medicine. I
Yes,
would be
absolutely.
I would be a widower.
Yeah.
My first baby had the cord wrapped twice around her neck,
Yeah.
and 100 years ago, my wife and daughter would have died in childbirth. So praise God for
Yes, absolutely.
surgeons
Me too.
and C-sections, right?
Yeah.
The fallacy, though, is that either people have trained medicine or medicine's trained the people to say, I have a symptom, give me something so
Yeah.
that it can go away.
It's a Band-Aid.
Right, like constipation is not a lack of Miralax.
No.
A headache is not a
exactly.
lack of aspirin, right?
Yes.
So when you honor the body, I say the body responds appropriately to its environment, right? So
Yeah.
I will say that until I'm done here
Yeah.
on earth. And then when you can get curious as opposed to blaming,
Yes.
that's that pivot that we have been able to do clinically. Like instead of being like, you're damaged, you're broken, you got bad genes and bad luck. No, like what's going on and where is that coming from?
Yeah.
And then it can be a challenge because people still kind of have that mindset with us that we have the magic solution and we
Yeah,
have the
it's
magic
true.
thing.
Yeah.
And then they realize like, oh, this looks like work and there's
Yeah.
overalls and leather gloves involved, inside of it. So, but that shift that you're talking about and sometimes some people also need to even acknowledge the small movements
Yes, those are
of care,
crucial.
right? I had a chance to meet with one of our mutual clients yesterday, and
Yeah.
so much better. I mean, like this
Huge.
young man was like suicidal
Yes.
when he started with us,
Yes.
and now he's not, and yet he still thinks he's ill.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting that so many times we can identify with that our disease is who we are,
Exactly.
which is a big shift for some people because people respond to us in a way or they
Yeah.
love us in a way. So, but the thing that you talked about that I'm so intrigued by is we're in some cases we're more bacteria than we are real cells.
Yes.
Doesn't that blow your mind?
Yeah.
And we now know that you talked about the immune system, and one of the things that we also say in the clinic is the body doesn't need help, it just needs nothing in the way.
in the way.
And what we see a lot are things that are in the way
Yes.
that we're like, hey, immune system, why didn't you take care of this? Now, we don't live in a very clean world, unfortunately. There's
don't.
toxicity.
Yeah.
But what I would tell people, like if people are like, what's the overriding clinical goal of the care is to like reinstate your immune system as the sheriff in town, right? Have that component inside of it. But when people understand the gut and the heart and the brain and how those things are so interconnected, then it makes sense that that if your gut's off, you could be anxious.
Yes.
If your gut's off, you could have anxiety.
Yeah.
If your gut's off, you could be irritable. And again, there's a time and a place for SSRIs and those types of things. But I think if there's a real conversation in a lot of those cases, there's more going to it.
Yeah.
So that leads us to the little brain
You want to go
inside the heart.
Okay. Because I was going to talk about something else.
Oh,
because
no.
Okay.
Go for it.
Because,
where are you at?
just to wrap up what you were saying,
Yeah.
there was this study at the Journal of the American Medical Association
Okay.
in 2018. Okay. So the patients with chronic diseases
Okay.
that adopted a healing approach like the one we offer here at this clinic
Okay.
had significant improvements in their quality of life and symptom management. That is amazing.
This is in JAMA?
Yeah, it's in JAMA in
Holy,
2018.
so JAMA is like one of the most prestigious
Yes.
medical journals.
And I found that article.
That a girl. And then the reality is a lot of their research is really pharmaceutically based, right?
Yes.
So here they're saying is there
This
another
approach-
way? Right. So this is a pretty bold statement for JAMA to put this in their article.
Absolutely. And the approach focuses on personalized care that we do here.
Yes.
It's like everybody's unique. So everybody should have that personalized care.
Yeah.
Lifestyle interventions, which we do here.
It's not all we do, but
day.
it's the lion's share of what we
Yes.
do.
And addressing underlying imbalances in the body systems, whether it's toxins that we were talking about,
yeah.
or the gut-brain immune axis,
100%.
or the cardiac-brain coherence, which brings us
Right,
to that.
to the little brain.
Little brain.
Yeah, I love that. So I don't want to skip over that because
Yeah.
I want to help people understand the definition between customized and personalized. Okay, so customized, there might be someone online that offers a program, and it's a custom program, but everybody does the same thing.
Yeah.
So that could be called custom. Personalized is
what
what
we
do
do.
you need?
Yeah,
Like, for example, I tell people, I have no idea what product you need. I have no idea what dosage you can handle. I know that you may not like it might feel ambiguous, but it's real.
Yeah.
And what it allows us to do is, okay, so you get labs back. I call that the science of medicine, right?
Yeah.
There's ranges. By the way, medical ranges are huge and our ranges are much smaller. So there's all this science, right? Symptomatology, lab work. And that's great. That gives us a good starting spot. And then the magic is in the art.
Yes.
And the journey is the art. And the journey is lifestyle.
Yeah.
The journey is, so what does lifestyle mean? So lifestyle could mean breath work,
Yeah.
movement,
Food. Stress reduction. Sleep.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we do some cool things like castor oil maybe,
buds,
or infrared, or
Yes.
hot or cold therapy, or
Sauna.
fasting, saunas. And then when necessary, supplementation or
Yes.
homeopathy or those types of things. So it's a very, and I hate the word holistic because it's kind of a garbage basket term, but personalized to
yeah.
that person. So now all of that aside, now we get to talk about
The little brain.
The little brain.
A lot of people maybe have not ever heard about this term, but I found this study that talk about the intrinsic cardiac nervous system, aka the little brain, and it's your heart actually has a network of neurons that work independently from the brain. So it's
crazy.
literally a little brain inside of your heart.
Yeah.
And there was two groundbreaking studies. There was one at the Journal of Cardiovascular Electrophysiology in 2017, and another one in Frontiers in Neuroscience in 2018. And they revealed that the heart's neural network has significant influence in the heart rate
Okay.
and plays a role in conditions like arrhythmia and heart disease, and also emotional regulation. So again, everything's connected, right?
Right.
So the heart sends more signals to the brain than the brain sends to the heart, which it's like.
Yeah, let me say that again. So what she just said, according to the research, is the heart sends more messages to the brain, kind of like, here's how I'm doing, here's what's going on. Then the brain sends to the heart.
Yeah.
So it's like it's its own independent system with its own neural bundle. That's crazy.
Yeah, and what they found is that when we support that little brain of the heart, we can reduce cardiac risk.
Which is
So-
the number one cause of death right now in the United States.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this network regulates, like I said, heart rate
Yep.
and emotional regulation. So
Right.
working with emotions also is like powerful.
Yeah.
And clinically, so what we do here is like we don't say heart disease is about lab numbers and blood pressure. It's so much more than that.
Right.
We see that there's a complex interaction between the immune system
Yeah.
and the gut and the brain and the heart, and the
Yeah.
nervous system and the heart are so intricately connected that
Let me just take you on a little side story.
Yeah.
So let's say that someone's body has an autoimmune disease.
yes.
How, in your opinion, would that little neural network, what would it do in response to like system-wide stress? Like how would someone, like would we see changes on labs per se?
For
or
sure.
like, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, again, the body responds
The
appropriately
body,
to its
exactly.
environment. So what else do you think, and I'm just being curious, how else could something that's not like a cardiac thing
Yeah.
have an impact upon the cardiac system? What would that look like?
Well, the stress is huge. So we here, because we have this amazing personalized care, we
Yeah.
talk to people and we can
Right.
figure out, okay, there's a lot on people's plates. So
Yeah.
those things like practicing self-regulation and knowing when somebody has a big load of work that it's stressful and stuff. So working with those things and
Right.
teaching people how to set boundaries and like so many things that we do that
Right.
we think they don't have anything to do with health, but they have so
Huge.
much
Huge.
impact
Yeah.
in people's health.
And then you're probably going to get to this talks about that coherence,
yes.
right? So that
There's
neural
that
network
neural network,
has that coherence conversation. So the way that people can start to look at this is through heart rate variability.
Heart rate variability, absolutely. And we can do, and then we can also improve that heart rate variability with breath work,
Okay.
meditation,
Okay.
stress reduction techniques,
Yeah.
having a healthy lifestyle, like movement. Are people moving every day? Because it's important.
We're designed to move.
Yes.
Right. What have you found in your clinical experience to be heart rate variability crushers?
Well, stress.
Okay. And I think people need to understand that stress is stress.
Stress is stress.
Right.
Yeah,
When we
it
think of
doesn't
stress,
matter.
we think of like emotional
Yeah.
stress.
No, it's
But there's physical
toxins.
stress.
Yeah.
Right. So like if you're a hard charging CrossFit athlete and you're going full tilt every single day, that's no different than like walking through a divorce maybe.
Yeah.
Right? Toxic stress.
Toxic stress.
So
Crazy.
in one of the labs that we use, it's very interesting. There's a marker called ticoglycine, but there's a statement inside of that. It said toxicity is now known to be one of the greatest inhibitors of mitochondrial function.
Yeah.
And mitochondrial dysfunction is linked to
Yeah.
Alzheimer's, heart disease, high blood pressure, and you're like, whoa.
Wow. Everything is connected.
Yep. But then to
Yeah.
pull that back, right? So Bob Navio came out in 2014 talking about this coherence and talking about like different stages of parasympathetic nervous system. And remember, that's where he said the mitochondria is either the powerhouse or the battleship. And it can't be both.
Yes.
So one of the most common things that we see clinically, if someone has autoimmune disease, their hormones are imbalanced, they have Lyme disease, is they have no energy.
Yeah.
Because
Lack
the
of energy.
role of that organelle called the mitochondria cannot be the powerhouse, it has to go into
The
defense.
battle. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And then your coherence
yeah.
bottoms out.
Boom. Yeah.
Because it says, I'm just trying to get through today.
Exactly.
So if you're listening to this and you're just trying to get through today, and you are about to start a new diet or a new supplement protocol, I'm not trying to tell you not to.
Yeah.
However, you might be putting the cart in front of the horse. And I say that because so many people that have presented into our clinic, they'll say like, I've done everything. If it's a vitamin, I've tried it. If it's a diet, I've done it. And nothing works.
Because there's no coherence.
There's no coherence.
Yeah, and that we need to address that, like we address everything else here. at
So if
the
someone is using their Apple Watch or their Oura Ring or their Whoop Band, how often do you have your clients check?
Well, everybody's unique. Some
Right.
people like to watch it every day because it's better for their, I'm doing good. And some people say, you know what, I'm going to take it every third day or every week.
Okay.
So we here go with, we meet the person where they are.
Right.
So we work with what we have. So the data, I love having data. The more the better for me.
Yeah.
But if they're like, it stresses me too much to watch this number.
Right.
Okay, let's come up with a compromise and see where can
Maybe
we
it's
make
once a
you.
week. Maybe it's every other
Yeah,
week. Yeah.
maybe other week.
Right.
And that's what we work here with. And that is data. It's like at the end of the day. So we work with what we have.
What does it tell you? Right.
And what is that telling us? And then
And I think as people are probably looking at their health app right now on their Apple phone saying, what is my heart rate variability? By the way, that's where you find it on your Apple phone is under the the health app. What I need to tell people is there's no good or bad number, right? There's no gold standard. What you want to compare yourself to yourself.
to yourself, exactly.
So what I tell people at the beginning is just track it for several weeks.
Yes.
And without judgment, without guilt, without
Yeah.
shame, just with curiosity,
Yeah.
what's happening to it. And then if you see a spike or a drop, be like,
Yeah.
I wonder what could have caused
What
that.
yeah.
What's going on in my world? How could I have impacted that?
Exactly.
Like I had a patient a couple months ago, very gluten sensitive, and he got exposed to gluten, and his HRV just tanked. So it doesn't have to be. I mean, stress is stress.
Stress is stress. It doesn't matter where it comes from.
Yeah, that's wild. That is so crazy. So
Yes.
this is a fun conversation.
It is.
Do you have anything else on your magic list?
I think we're good. I think those were the studies that I came up with, and I just love what we do here. It's
fun.
amazing.
We get to serve people, right? That's
we
the fun.
serve
That's the
people.
fun part of, and it's not all easy.
No, and it's sometimes it's challenging, but it's what we are here to do. I think
Yeah.
it's the best thing is helping and serving people be the center of their
Right.
health.
If someone was
yeah.
considering to join us and be a patient of ours, and they wanted to walk in with the best foot forward, they wanted to have the best possible opportunity, what would you say to them in preparation for joining us?
Well, I always said, if you want to heal, that's all that matters. Somebody needs to want to do the work.
Right.
When you want to heal, you do the work, you stay committed, and that's all we need.
So I want to.
Yeah,
Yeah. As opposed to I have to.
I have to accept.
As opposed
Yeah.
to I don't like this.
Yes.
Right. And I think it's important for people to know also that getting well doesn't look like,
No,
right? It's kind
Yeah,
of like a
it's-
roller coaster
it
sometimes,
is.
right?
Ups and downs.
And to be curious in the downs and to not be judgy, but also it's okay to have emotions.
Absolutely, and that's where, like, also when we feel those emotions,
Yeah.
there's coherence, right? When we're
Right.
sad, let's cry. When we're happy, let's laugh. Like,
so
there's
good.
all about
It's
coherence.
very, I mean, I would say I was raised in a house that emotions
yeah,
no go.
yeah,
So then like you go into adulthood and you're like, what's an emotion?
yes,
So then there's a lack of coherence because your heart and your brain,
Are not-
like there's like this knot that
Yeah.
says like it's not safe to talk to you or where's this at? And then when you try to cultivate those emotions, then you're like, is that a good thing or where does
yeah.
that come from? So and I'm not saying maybe guys more than women typically are in that space,
absolutely. Yeah.
but
There's-
I think it's even like what are you feeling and and it's okay to have that feeling and so I think that's one thing that people. It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to be
Absolutely.
excited. It's okay to be anxious.
It is okay, and it's
Yeah.
an emotion, and emotions are temporary feelings, right? So
Yeah. And they may not like your mind may not always be the truth,
yeah,
right?
you might think this is gonna be forever.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah.
Well, Loredana, we did it.
Yes, we did it.
Wasn't this fun?
It was awesome.
Well, I'm so grateful to have you here.
Thank you so much
it's
for
grateful
inviting me
Yeah, I
to
think
your
you
podcast.
and thank you for saying yes. I know that you were like,
Oh.
I don't know.
Totally out of my comfort zone, but
Yeah.
this is where we grow.
This
When we
is
get
where we
out of the
grow.
comfort zone,
Yeah.
we grow.
Yeah. I
so
love it.
Thank
I
you
love it.
so much for the
I
opportunity.
do want to publicly thank Eric and your kids
Oh,
for
thank
you,
you.
because I know it's a sacrifice for your family.
Thank you
and
so
I know
much.
that it's also part of your calling to serve. So
Yeah.
thank you, Eric. I appreciate you truly and your babies.
No, thank you so
good.
much.
So there you have it. Another episode of the Daily Dose with Dr. Greg. I do think we're going to have Loredana on again with her amazing research. Thanks so much,
We'll
Loredana.
see. Thank you so much.